Hi, this is Vicky from vickycharles.com, and you're listening to my podcast. Thank you for listening. The show notes from this and previous podcasts can be found at vickycharles.com/podcast. And this week's podcast is a list of 5 things not to do on your Facebook page. So let's get on with it. My first thing that you shouldn't do on your Facebook page is asking random questions. Now, I'm going to sound a bit like a hypocrite here because I do ask stupid random questions all the time. And that's fine. Every now and then I think is fine. That's not a problem. Everybody does it. Everyone asks silly questions. What I have a problem with is when you do it all the time and it's just your timeline seems like a long stream of random, unconnected, one-sentence questions, apropos of nothing, interspersed with links to your website, and it just smacks of filler, something to fill up my space, something to try and get you to talk to me about, and I don't like it, and I think it's kind of obvious, and I don't think it's going to help you to get interaction. So, I mean, I ask random questions all the time. The other day, I read something in a book, and it just made me howl with laughter, so I put it on Facebook to see what would happen, and the question was, if you got out of the shower and found a leprechaun standing on your toilet, would you be scared, or would you just innately know that he meant you no harm? And I got an awful lot of comments on that because people were like, are you on crack? What are you talking about? And it was just interesting. What I would say is it's all very well asking people questions. And for that, I did say afterwards, oh yeah, I just read it in a book. I found it funny. If you're going to ask people questions, give them something of yourself with it. So rather than going, what's your favourite breakfast? Kind of go, oh, we have pancakes for breakfast today. What do you like to eat? So you're giving something of yourself with it. And you're giving a reason for asking the question. Like, I'm wondering this because I've been doing it myself. Not just, what do you like to eat for breakfast? Because that just sounds like you're collecting information about somebody for some sort of stalkerish notebook that you're keeping on them. That'd be weird, wouldn't it, if you're doing that? So that basically, yeah, that's my point, is just bear in mind that if you're only just posting like one sentence questions, people are going to start to think, why are you asking me this? Why do you care? What, if you're not kind of giving them something of yourself with it, then it's just a bit weird. My second thing that you absolutely should never do on your Facebook page is cross-post from Twitter. So, I mean, I am a great advocate of cross-posting from Facebook to Twitter, where anything you post on Facebook or text that I post on Facebook always appears on my Twitter feed. I do that with all my pages that have corresponding Twitter accounts. I think it's fantastic. But posting from Twitter to Facebook, if you think, I tweet sometimes, if I'm talking to people on Twitter and interacting with them, I might tweet 9 or 10 times in the space of 10 minutes, maybe even more if I'm tweeting to a few people. Perhaps I'm in part of a group or a discussion, or I'm retweeting people. And if you've got all of that coming up on your Facebook timeline, that's spam. To anyone on Facebook, that is spam. They'll unfollow you, they'll hide you, they won't bother with you. So it's really important to bear that in mind, that although, yeah, we do post kind of, a fair amount on Facebook, it's nothing like the amount that we tweet on Twitter. And I think, my personal opinion is that you should never, ever in a million years cross-post from Twitter to Facebook, because that is just basically Facebook suicide. My third thing that you should never do on Facebook is be inconsistent. Your Facebook page, I read somewhere, your Facebook page is your online equivalent of the reception desk for your blog or business. So if it's empty and there's nothing going on there, then people are going to think, oh, okay, I can't get hold of that person this way. Perhaps they're not blogging anymore. They're not going to go and, if they can't see you on Facebook, they're not going to go and look at all of your other social media channels or check your blog, unless they're stalking you. They're not going to do any of that. They're just going to think, oh, okay, that blog's not active anymore, I won't bother with it. So be active and be consistent. So don't post 5 things one day and then nothing the next, because it's Facebook algorithms work on consistency. They work on, yes, plod, this person's here every day, they talk every day. Try and keep on with that. Your algorithms will favour your consistency, and also so will your audience, because they will grow to kind of not rely on, but they'll be used to you posting at 8 o'clock every morning, or around, at breakfast time in the morning, so that you always post at 10 o'clock at night or something. They'll be used to that, and they'll expect to see you there at that time. And that can mean a lot, and that can really help you to build a community if you're online at the same times, saying the same things, doing the same things, not entirely the same things. That'd be boring, but you know what I mean. My fourth thing that you should never do on your Facebook page is to post a massive, super long update. That's why you've got a blog, people. If you've got something really long and wordy to say, write a blog post and post a link to it on your Facebook page. Nobody's going to read. After See More, nobody reads that. Like, very, very few people read that. Fewer people read that than read the comments underneath of Instagram posts, and we all know how many people read those captions. So just bear in mind, if you're posting a super long text update, you're probably only going to get 5 people actually bother to read it, and of those, only 2 are going to read it entirely without skimming it, and probably only 1 is going to post a comment, and they're going to be the crackpot that comments on everything that you post. So if you want to reach a wider audience, just post something short and say, yeah, I'm going to write a blog post about this, and write a blog post, and then write to your heart's content because it's your blog. My final thing that you should never do on Facebook is something that I basically mention in every single podcast lately: collecting page likes like Pokemon. If you're in it to have as many page likes as possible, then you probably should be back at school collecting Pokemon, because realistically, you can have 50,000 page likes, but if none of them are interacting with you, they're not worth a thing. And PRs and everybody else is getting really wise to this, and they're understanding that there's no point in having a massive audience if they're not an engaged audience. And it's much better to have a few people who you have an influence over in that respect. If you're trying to get PRs to work with you and companies to work with you, or anything really, is if to be able to say, yes, there are 50 people who follow my every word, who buy everything I tell them to buy, whatever, then to have 50,000 people who, I think they probably know who I am, probably not. They probably liked me because I put my page on one of those like ladder things. They're probably not interested. They're probably not interested in what I have to say. Yeah, but there's loads of them. I've got loads of them. It's great. Like, who is that? What are you winning there? Is there a prize? Did I miss the memo? You're not winning anything. I think it's pointless. And it's really only some kind of ego trip to get as many likes on your page as possible. It's much better to have an engaged audience who are interested, who know who you are. And I really think that it's worth a lot more, and it's been undervalued. In the last few years, everybody's been more about getting more Twitter followers, more page likes, more Instagram followers. Realistically, it's more about engagement, and now that people are coming to kind of realise that social media is about engagement, it's about engaging with your audience and having them engage with you, and that's what you need to do. So collecting page likes really is not a win-win situation. And it's also worth bearing in mind that then if you're going to advertise and you've got an unengaged primary audience, then when you're advertising, you're paying to advertise to those people first. So you're paying to advertise to people that don't care. People that are not interested, have never been interested, have never once commented on your page, and you're paying to advertise to them, and you know they're not interested. So it's just a waste of time, I think, and it's one of the worst things you can do for your page. I had a client who had paid, when she first started out with her business, she paid for likes on her page, and now her page has thousands of likes, and she's never sure how many of them are the original ones that she paid for that were like fake accounts, I suppose. I don't know how they do that. But so she doesn't know, so she can't get a true reading of what percentage of her actual audience is engaged and what percentage is just fake accounts and what have you. And it's difficult, and also it can skew your figures. So when you look in your insights, if quite often when you've paid for likes or you've gone to like ladders and things like that, you get people from different countries who speak different languages. You get random made up accounts. You get people who are only doing it so that you're like their page. That's about nothing to do with what you're into. So it skews that whole demographic of things like the age of your audience, the gender of your audience, where your audience is based, what language they speak. It can skew those figures, and then you don't have a good baseline to see who your audience is. You don't know your audience so well, and that's a really important thing to bear in mind. So those were my 5 top things not to do on Facebook. If you have anything to add, things that you really think people shouldn't do on their Facebook pages, I'd love to hear from you, because obviously this is all only my own opinion and from my own experience, and I'm only one person. So if you have anything to add, I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to hear if you disagree with me. If some of these things work really well for you, then do by all means tell me. The show notes for this and all other podcasts can be found at vickycharles.com/podcast. And if you've enjoyed what you've heard here, do please share it with your friends, because I would love for more people to hear my wonderful voice. That's it from me for this week. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll be back next week.